It's coming. Got it.
All right, and I'll start the recording now.
Okay.
We can wait for the last few minutes for more people to trickle in.
Hi, everyone, and thank you guys for coming. I think we're about ready to get started. So I'm super excited to introduce Mr. Adefioye, and he is the founder of CodeNest Africa, and he's going to walk you guys through the basics about building Android and iOS apps. All right, and I think you can take it away.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you so much to the organizers. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited about this time. I know I have like a very short time to run through this. This like like a 3-month course, but then we just like do some sort of crash course right now. We'll do like 1 hour 30 minutes, and then we can take it from there. Hello, guys. I don't know if you can hear me clearly. You can just comment on the chat box if you can. And I'll be glad to know where you're streaming from. That would be great to know as well. All right. So I'm Temidayo Adefioye. I'm a software engineer, and I love what I do in terms of building products that solve problems, basically. So today, my focus is to help you understand how to get started with Android and iOS development, and that's where we're going to start from right now. Okay, so I think I'll start off with an introduction to what Android and iOS development means. We're currently in the age where a lot of people are building softwares, seamless applications that can help customers to access services and all of that. A lot of businesses are actually going into that space where they want to automate their processes and they want more customers to be able to access their services. We have the web space, we have the mobile, and it seems like a lot of people are more comfortable using their smartphones anywhere they go. We have fewer people use their laptop to access services. So this is where mobile development is essential. It's very important that we understand that piece. So, yeah. Okay, well, you know me already. I'm Temidayo Adefioye. I'll quickly tell you a story about how I started software engineering. That was about 6 years ago. I made the best decision of my life. And the goal for me at that time was to understand what exactly I wanted to do with my career. And for me, I see technology as an enabler that allows you to be able to provide services and solutions to people, right? So I felt that mobile development is like one of the things that I would love to do. I saw people doing stuff and in school, and it was just I was intrigued by the way mobile technology was like changing the world, the days of WhatsApp, Facebook, new technologies were emerging at that point in time. And I felt that, wow, this is a good space to explore. And I would move on with this quote, which is, it says that nothing will work unless you do. So one of the things I did at that point in time was to take an action, right? And just like what you guys are doing right now, you've taken an action to come to this webinar or to this session to be able to learn, right? So nothing's going to work if you don't take a step. And now you've taken a step. I believe that the actionable decision you've made today will help you to build a meaningful career in this space, right? Mobile development. Okay, so before I proceed, I would like to confirm if anybody can hear me here. You can just put that in the chat box. I would like to see that. I've not, yes, great. Ever, Ellie, okay, nice. All right. Yeah, so the next thing here is, these days when I do things at home, my friends they feel that I'm a mobile developer because I use apps on the phone. So when they see me use apps on the phone, they say, this guy is mobile developer. They feel that that's what I do. And a lot of people, my parents or my mom, thinks that I just sit on behind the keyboard, just playing around stuff and all of that. That's what they believe I do. All right. I mean, society feels that I just sit down, I'm just idle, I'm not doing anything. I'm just in front of the camera or in front of the keyboard, playing around and all of that. And my boss feels that, well, this guy is flapping around. I'm not sure if this guy is doing anything. What exactly? I mean, we're waiting for him. So that's what my boss thinks. But for me, some other people feel that, well, I mean, as a developer, you need to have like a lot of monitors in front of on your screen, in front of you. I mean, you have a lot of screens in front of you. Well, that's another angle. But in the real sense, what I do is to solve problems. So beyond all of the things that you've seen already, and what you are going to do is to solve major problems. And which is why I'm here today to, oh, please hold on, please. Sorry, trying to reconnect. Okay, please, if you can hear me, please do let me know.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So I was saying the other time that what I do really is I solve problems with technology, mobile development and all. Okay, so from there, what are we doing today? We're going into mobile development, Android and iOS.
Do you mind sharing your screen again?
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah, we cannot see your screen right now.
Okay, let me try to do that again. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it. It looks great.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for that. Okay, so for me, today we're going to be looking at mobile development. We're looking at Android and iOS. We'll look at Java and Swift language. Don't worry, I'm going to explain these things to you. We're going to look at OOP, that's object-oriented programming. We're going to explore what Flutter cross-platform means. And we'll do a very simple application that will explain to you how these things work. All right, so straight up to this. Now, right now, you will notice that there are billions of applications on the Play Store, and I'm very sure that you are also one of the customers, I mean, on that store, Google Play Store, Apple Store. You also have like apps that you're running on your phone. You hear things like there's a WhatsApp application, there is Facebook app, there is Microsoft, a lot of tools. Zoom is like one of the tools that you use for communication. And so it's making a lot of companies like provide services across to billions of people. It's more accessible and all of that. So if you look at the statistics right now, you discover that billions of apps are being downloaded. And even as at the Q2 of 2021, about 28 billion apps, were downloaded from Google Play Store, and about 7.9 million from App Store. So this is huge. It's massive. That means that a lot of people are actually interested in this space, and a lot of businesses are building applications to help them to enable their services reach more people across the world. So yeah, so it's a good space to be. It's a good space to build a career, basically. So what are the most popular technologies that we know right now? There is Flutter. I'll explain that to you. There's React Native, there's Ionic, there's Java, there's Kotlin, and there is Swift. Flutter is owned by Google. It's a cross-platform framework that allows you to build a single code base, and you can run on Android, iOS, web, and desktop. That's beautiful. Yes, it makes sense. All right, there is React Native. That's owned by Facebook. You can use the same thing to build for Android, iOS, right? There's Ionic. Well, that's a cross-platform framework as well. Java is a native language. What that means is that you can only run a Java application or a Java programmed application on an Android device. That's what it means. It means it's native. You're not using any kind of cross-platform application for that. For Kotlin is the same thing. It allows you to, it's a multi-platform language, right? But then Kotlin allows you to be able to build applications for native, which means that it's going to run natively on your device. There is Swift. Swift is for Apple. Yes, so that means that if you want to be an Apple developer, strictly Apple developer, then you need to learn how to use Swift. If you want to be an Android developer, you either use Java or Kotlin. But if you want to be both, that means that you want to run for Android and iOS at the same time, or that means that you need to go for one of the cross-platform tools or technologies. Yep. So so straight up to Android and iOS, let's take a glance. Let's see what we have there. So Android, of course, was launched in 2008, like 2008. I mean, it's like one of the popular operating system in the world right now. It's generally written in Java, but then Google introduced another language, which is Kotlin, so that you can use either Java or Kotlin. So the goal is that the idea is that Google is trying to retire the use of Java language for Android development, and they want developers to be able to explore Kotlin for their development. So if you want to go into mobile space, I would recommend that you spend more of your time using learning Kotlin or any of the cross-platform frameworks I've mentioned earlier on. So it's open source. Yep. I don't know if you guys understand open source. So if you know what that means, can you put that on the chat box? Do you know what that means? Open source. Great. Nice. Yeah. Open source. Okay. Great. So yeah, it's used by a lot of popular companies, Microsoft. That's Samsung, LG, Google, Huawei, and Nokia, and other companies that are emerging right now. There is iOS, where it was launched in 2007. That's it's also very popular right now. It's generally written in Swift. There is it's a closed ecosystem. There is it's being used on iPhone, iPad, and MacBook. So that's great. It's great. All right. So up next is this. All right. There's this joke that my friends usually crack, which they say things like, well, the iPhone guys complain about the battery level. Once it's 20%, everybody starts complaining, like, oh man, I have a low battery. But then with 20% or with 1% on Android, you can still do quite a number of things. Yeah, it's just by the way, anyways. It doesn't mean that iPhone is, I have preference for iPhone as well. So yeah, so Java and Swift, straight up to Java and Swift. Let's take a look at this. I mentioned earlier on that, okay, great. Open source projects, people can modify that and share because it's designed, it's accessible online by anybody. So yes, great stuff. So I'll go straight up to, let me remove this, to Java and Swift. So what do we mean by Java? And this is Java code. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. I don't know if you guys have written any Hello World code before now. So looking at this is a simple Java code. And I'm going to explain what this does, right? And then I explain to you what it means, right? So this code is written in Java, as I said earlier on. So it's also OOP. OOP means that it's Java, it's object-oriented language, basically. That's Java for you. And we have other OOP languages out there in the industry that you can explore. So, okay, what are the companies? What company use Java programming language right now? We have the likes of Uber, Google, Netflix, Pinterest, Instagram, Amazon, or what have you. So if you look at this code properly, you discover that we have a class called dog, and we have an extension which is animal. So what this does is that we have a class basically, which is called animal. It means that this dog can inherit the properties of this class called animal. So whatever properties that we have in animal can be used by dog. So it means that what are the properties that you can use? For example, the animal class has a function called make sound, but this make sound is publicly accessible by dog. Why? Because you're extending animal basically. So if you have this, there's another class called make sound. It's still the same thing, but then it does different, like it does a different operation basically, because this has a parameter passed into it, which is called like injured, right? And the other one does not have any parameter passed to it. So that's the difference basically. So this is what we do, what we call OOP, where you have access to, you can play around objects. You're talking about methods and instance. You're creating instances of objects just to be able to have like replica or to be able to replicate operations, so that kind of thing. So there is Swift. The reason why I'm giving you like what do you call it? Giving you things on the surface, because this is going to require a lot of time. You need to like go to the basics of Java, Swift, if you really want to explore that. But this talk is beyond the scope of going deeper into Java and Swift. But then this is Swift. This is what it looks like. There's a class, or there's an array of students, Nora, Fran, Ryan, and Raina, right? This is like an array of string. Looking at this, you want to check the name Ryan from this array. So this code checks the name called Ryan. So if it exists, then display this. The name is signed up. If it doesn't exist, just say no record of Ryan, that kind of thing, because the name checked is this Ryan, and you're checking if this array contains Ryan. If it doesn't contain, if it contains it, great, then Ryan is signed up. If it doesn't contain it, just say else Ryan, or no record of Ryan, that kind of thing. So this is how Swift operates. All right, it's kind of very friendly as well. It's readable, it's clean. And so if you want to be a Swift engineer or an iOS developer, then you might want to consider Swift from the scratch. You have to understand the basics and how it works, right? Okay, let's quickly take a look at OOP, object-oriented programming. The reason why I want to emphasize on this is because it's very important in the cross-platform technology we're going to speak about today. So I'm trying to catch up and ensure that you get basics of most of these things. So OOP, straight up, there's a terminology in OOP that you should be familiar with. It's called instance. Look at this visual properly. On your chat box, can you tell me what this means? Just by looking at this image, what do you think this means? I would like to see your responses. Okay, someone said delegation. Any other response? Okay, delegation. Any other person? Okay, it's telling them what to do. Okay. Many instances of, okay. What else? Great, great. I'm getting like interesting responses here. Okay. Any other person? Can you identify something similar to all of them? Can you just spot that? What do you think is similar to all of those? I mean, those things that you can see in the visual. What's similar to all of them? Okay, they're all yellow. All right. Any other thing you can identify there? They all look the same. Okay. What else? Okay, they are doing some sort of work. Nice. They have their own space. That's another angle. Great. Any other one? Before I move on, I'm waiting for one more answer. Okay, I guess I can move on then. Okay, so from looking at this visual, you will see that they have a lot of things in common. You have like the same person like sitting down there looking at the monitor, and we have some other things on that table, right? This is what it means to create an instance. It means that you have this guy standing here and he wants to perform different operations at the same time. So the only thing you can do to achieve that is to create an instance of that guy. If not, there's no way he's going to perform the operations intermittently. So I say that this guy, I want you to do 10 things at the same time. So this yellow guy, I can create an instance of him. So that means that you're creating an instance of whatever operations I want to do in different formats. So I say that the instance one, perform 2 plus 2. The other one, perform 1 plus 1. The other person, perform 2 plus 2. But then it's still the same guy, just that the only difference is that you are creating an instance of that person. So it helps you to be able to perform different operations at the same time with the minimal time execution, that kind of thing. So if it's going to take this guy on a normal day to perform the operation one at a time, let's say 10 minutes, but because you've created an instance of that, it can do everything in 1 minute because you've created an instance of it. And so every instance has like the same, it will inherit the properties of that person, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that is clear. If you understand that, can you put that on the chat box? I would like to know. So is that clear enough? Okay, beautiful. Okay, nice. So the other thing about OOP, when somebody says that, oh, there's something called OOP, you need to understand what we call methods. Methods, these are functions within a particular object. I've mentioned before that we have a guy, a yellow guy called, let's give it a name, maybe X-Men or something. And now the guy has a particular function to perform. So that object, you can have diverse operations happening. So for one guy, I want him to jump. The other guy, I want him to roll on the floor. Another person, I want him to swim. I want another person to eat. So if you want to perform all of these functions at the same time, that is where you need to create an instance. But now these functions come with the instance. So I say that, in other words, your object will behave in this manner, just like what you have in this visual. This person has like different things to do, different functions, but they're still the same person. So this same person is trying to make a coffee, and all of that. So different operations by one person. So you have different functions for that. That is called either function or you call it method. So it's almost like it's the same thing, method and functions. Okay. Inheritance. What can you see in this visual? What do you think is going on here in this visual? What can you say about it?
You have an adult and you have the child.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Another person.
Hangu, Kang.
Okay, the purpose look the same with characteristics of the parents. Oh, okay. Nice. Any other response?
All the puppies, like they have the same like basic characteristics as like the parent, but they can be like still slightly different.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. The purpose are related to the dog, and that's another response. Okay. One more response and I will move on. Okay, I guess we can proceed then. All right, so looking at this is called inheritance in OOP, that's object-oriented programming. It's called inheritance. So inheritance basically means that you have a class, right, which is called like dog, and it has like different properties, right? So if I want to have other classes that should behave like me, I'm just saying maybe man or dog, that should behave like the dog, then they have to inherit all the properties of that dog. So looking at this, we have a class called dog, right? So if I want to have 20 other classes that should behave exactly like the dog, then I don't have to create more dogs like this. I just need to inherit the properties of this dog. So if you get that, you can just drop a message on the chat box. So that way, it's very simple stuff. It's just, I mean, you're inheriting properties from that. So if you look at this parent, this is like a parent class. This is a dog, that's a parent. And then you have the children. They have the same property as the parents. The only thing that will be different here is the fact that maybe the size of the parent is bigger than the size of the child, but then they still inherit the same property, which is the size or the width. The height might be different, but then they have the same property called height. So the only thing that will be different here is the value of those properties, but then they are going to have the same behavior 100%. So I don't know if you understand that. Do you get that? Or you want me to say to go back to it again? Oh, nice, beautiful. Okay. So in Java, the only way you can do that, I think I've shown you. Yeah, exactly. Let me go back to that class. If you remember, can you remember this class? I mentioned something about inheritance. This is animal. So this dog will inherit all the properties of animal. So I can create another class called, let's say cat. It has to inherit all the properties of this animal. So that is what it means to create inheritance, right? And in Java, you use the word extends. That is, if you want to see anything called extends, it means that you are inheriting the methods, the information of the parent class. So that's it. Okay, all right. So we've spoken about Flutter. Oh, sorry, we've spoken about Swift, Java, Kotlin, and the rest. So why did I mention all of these things? As a Flutter engineer, you will need to understand how things work under the hood, on the native side of things, especially when you're building apps for Android and iOS. Because Flutter is leveraging on the operating system that runs on each devices, right? So if it's Android, Flutter will have to leverage on the technology behind it. And if it's iOS, Flutter has to follow the rules and the guidelines and the principles behind iOS. So what is Flutter and why is it so important, right? Why is it so important? This is an SDK designed to create beautiful applications. We're in this age where it's very difficult to, if you don't have beautiful apps, then I'm not sure your customers will be able to play around your apps. I mean, the first thing that people look at is the look and the feel. If it's not great, they might be skeptical and probably might not be interested in using the application. So the reason why we have Flutter is to help you design beautiful applications within a short time. And the conventional approach, which is building on the native side. If I say native, it means that you want to build your apps using Java or Kotlin for Android or Swift for iOS. It takes you more time to create the user experience in terms of UI for that application. But what Flutter has done for you is to reduce that workload. And then you have access to a toolkit that allows you to just pick things, and that's it. You create beautiful apps like that. All right, that's one. Number two is the fact that it takes you a lot of time to build an app for Android and iOS. On a normal day, you have to complete your Android development and then you move to iOS. But what Flutter has done for you is to help you build a single code base. Create a single code base, and then you can run that same thing on Android, iOS, and web. In fact, the interesting thing about this is the fact that there's a new development on Flutter. It allows you to be able to deploy that same code base on desktop. That's incredible. That's incredible. So it means that with a single code base, I'll just deploy it on Android, I'll deploy on iOS and web app. So if you get that, you can just comment on the chat box. Do you understand what I just said about Flutter? Oh, nice. Yes, very cool. Yes, it's we're in this age where we just need to ship applications very fast. And if you don't have the right technology, it's going to take you more time, take you forever to build. Great. And well, so for the other point is that Google owns this technology. So that means that, yes, thank you. That means that it's sustainable and there's a future for it. There's maintenance and every other thing. And one of the things that I look out for when I want to choose a technology is the continuity. Are we sure that this technology is going to continue in the future? What's the open source community like? What's the impact this is going to have on my application or on my solution, right? So for me, I feel that Flutter has solved the problem for us. It's just for us to pick it up, understand how it works, and start building beautiful and amazing applications. So yes, that's Flutter for you. All right, what's the framework like? Very simple thing. Flutter is the framework. It's written in Dart, D-A-R-T, Dart. So the Flutter framework is written in Dart language. It's a programming language. It's also owned by Google. So what this does is that very simple. When you are deploying your application, Flutter will generate for Android, generate the same thing for iOS, and do the same thing for web. In the new development that it just released recently, you can actually deploy for desktop as well. So that's another thing that it's possible, and it's great. It's great to know that. All right. So who is Flutter for? So if you're a developer, then you should consider Flutter. Especially mobile developers, you should consider Flutter. If you're a designer, then you should consider Flutter as well, because converting your designs to a Flutter app is very easy to use. You don't really need so much of technical expertise to be able to get that done as a designer. I have a couple of friends that are currently into Flutter. They are UI UX designers, and they convert their screens themselves because they feel it's more efficient, and they want to demonstrate their skills that way. For prototypers, you can actually explore Flutter, which means that you don't necessarily have to write a lot of very complex code before you can demo something to your clients or to your employer. You get. So that's the reason why I said prototyping is great for Flutter as well. So how does it work? Yes, how does Flutter work? So imagine that you have your app. As I said earlier on, I said Flutter is written in Dart, right? So your app is written in Dart. So which means that you need to understand, Dart language to be able to write in Flutter, right? So what happens under the hood? What's going on behind the scene? Most developers don't really understand how these things work. They just pick the framework and start using it. But then it's very important that you understand what happens under the hood so that you'll be able to communicate these things to people. And apart from that, you'll be able to understand how best to maximize the tools that you've been given, by the developer. All right. So there is the app, which is, of course, designed in that. Then Flutter engine itself has something called widgets and the render engine. So what is a widget? This is a class that allows you to create visuals, basically. So a widget can be a button. It can be anything on your UI. It can be a button. It can be a text. It can be a drop down. It could be a circle. It could be a rectangle. Anything that allows you to create shapes, to render shapes on your UI. So, for example, in a native world, you would need to use things like components, right? In your native developments, let's say in iOS or in Android native, you have to use something called components to be able to do some sort of drag and drop and create a UI for your application. But in Flutter, everything you see on your UI is called widgets. So everything is called widgets. Anything on that on your Flutter is called widgets. So it means that you'll be able to create as much as possible, render them, and you're good. And it's pretty fast because there are so many things that happen behind the scene that helps you to render this widget at a very faster pace. All right. So there's something called platform channels. All right. So this is on the front end part, which is the widgets. On the back end part of the Flutter, you have something called platform channels. What this does for you is a handshake between the cross-platform application, this DAT, and your platform APIs. So I would say platform APIs could mean the camera, your GPS, which is location, because they are native. They are sensors within your device, and they have APIs. That's called application programming interface, right? So for every device sensor that you have on your phone, it comes with something called API. So if you're writing on the native side, you need the application programming interface to communicate with the camera on that device. You need the API for the audio to communicate with the API with the audio. All right. You need API for location. Now, how do you want to have access to this if there is no middleman? All right. So Flutter has something called platform channels. It allows you to communicate with these APIs from your Flutter code. So this is the handshake between that and your native, which is the platform API. So whether you're using iOS or Android, this platform channel will check if the device is iOS, then it's going to access all the platform APIs for that device. If it's iOS, it's going to access platform channels or platform APIs for all of those sensors on the device. So it's kind of beautiful because this is what you actually want to do, which is why we call it a cross-native platform application. That's why I'm referring to Flutter, which means that you can actually access the native application programming interface for every sensor you have installed on a particular device. So if you have NFC, for example, NFC on the device can be accessed through platform channels, that kind of thing. So it's a middleman between your DAT and your native side of things. All right. Let me know if you get that or you want me to explain that to you on the chat box. Can you signify if you understand it? If you know, if you understand how things work with Flutter behind the scene. Any comments? Okay. So can anybody explain to me, just like something I just mentioned to you now? Okay, I think someone said that I should go over that again. Okay, so let me give you a practical example. Let's take a Samsung device as an example. Let's say that on the phone, you have things like the camera, there is the audio, there is NFC, there is what else? Just name it. It's the SIM card, and the rest, what have you, right? So what happens on the native side when, as a native developer, what happens is that when you're writing a code to communicate with the camera of your phone, you need something called application programming interface that has been designed by the company, which is Google. Google owns the operating system, which is Android. So they have all the APIs you need to be able to communicate with that hardware, all right, from the native side, which is either Java or Kotlin. Now, to be able to access these things from Flutter, that is not allowed to directly communicate with APIs because Android is not built on top of that. All right. So you cannot communicate directly with your API. So what's the solution? So Google, or let's say Flutter, has done it in such a way that there is an handshake, or let me say a handshake between that and the native platform APIs. So which is called platform channels. So any request you are going to make from your DAT application will be sent through platform channel. It's a middleman between your app and the native side of things. So any request we are going to make, okay, I'll say, for example, oh, I need to turn on the camera on this device from my application. I send a request to the native, that is the platform APIs, through platform channels. So if there's any API available for the request you just made, I'll send you a response that, okay, yeah, I've turned it on for you. But without these platform channels, you cannot access anything on the device. So platform channels allows you to, either it's iOS or Android, it allows you to be able to communicate with the platform APIs. Please let me know if you understand that now, or you want me to go over it again. Because you need to really understand how this works, so that if anybody's going to ask you in the future, you can easily speak about it. I think it's very important you know how things work under the hood. So any other person? Okay, can I proceed? I think I have to proceed then. All right, quick one, Flutter Layout. All right, so let's take a look at this briefly. So this is an example of a Flutter layout. I mentioned before that everything is widgets in Flutter. Everything is widgets. So what you have on this UI, everything you can see on this UI will be referred to as widgets for Flutter. This image is a widget in Flutter. It's a widget. This side, this star, the text, they are all widgets. Everything you have on this UI can be referred to as widgets. Now, what makes you outstanding as a Flutter developer is your ability to be able to render those widgets properly in a very intuitive way, and they are well aligned. So you're going to have a lot of widgets to create as a Flutter developer, depending on what a designer gives to you. So if a designer is giving you this kind of UI, I say, player, okay, hello, like Mark, do you want to help me create an app from this UI? So the guy gives you this kind of UI, and you just want to analyze it. So that your next thing is to say, okay, this is a UI, and I need to write this application. I want to create an app from this UI. So I've told you already that this image is a widget on its own. The other one here, the text, the icons, they're all widgets altogether. All right, so I'll talk about Flutter Layout briefly, and I'll also share with you, I have a cheat sheet on GitHub that can help you to quickly get started with Flutter. It's going to tell you tips, things that you can quickly know on the spot. So they're like a cheat sheet that will help you to quickly get started. So I'm going to share that with you at the end of this session. So Flutter Layout. So I want to ask you something. Do you know anything called, just not on a technical side, what do you think a column is and a row? Just don't think about Flutter, just as the name implies, column and row. What does it mean?
I guess for me, a column is just things that are lined up vertically. Yeah.
Okay.
And then row is, things that are lined up horizontally.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, any other response? I just saw one there. You said vertical and horizontal orientation. Okay, great. Any other person? Okay. I'm not getting responses from people. What's going on? Have I lost you guys?
Columns are usually data from one category of things, and then rows would be data relating to a particular thing, within different categories, like instances of different categories.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. Um, okay. All right. So as a Flutter developer, one of the things you're going to work with every single time is orientation in terms of layout, whether you want something to go on a horizontal, on a vertical. So that's the first thing that you have to put in your, have it in mind that you need to understand what it means to have something in column and then what it means to have something in row, right? So looking at this UI, you would see that we have things in either column or row. In the real sense of things, I would say that the first box in red, the second box, and the third and the fourth, they are all in a column. Do you agree with that? Do you agree? Okay, great. Yeah, nice. So the other one is the other image by the right here. What do you think that orientation would look like? Like, how can you describe that? Can you describe the second layer? I've explained the left side of the image. The second part of this image, the second image here, what can you say about it? Okay, a row with 3 buttons. Okay. Is there any column? Is there any column there? Oh, nice. Okay, great. Any other response? I just got one here. It said each button is a column with picture on top and great, great. Oh, great. All right. So let me proceed. Yeah, I mean, you guys are right. You're right. If you look at the inner circle, the inner rectangle, you will have an icon and a core, which is a column. That's one column on its own. The other one is another column. The third one is the column, and then within a row. So as a developer or as a Flutter developer, you need to have this kind of mentality to know how you can structure your widget. And I said earlier on, everything is widgets. The icon, the text, everything widgets. But then what makes you get your stuff, your work delivered as early as possible is your ability to be able to identify which one should be a row and which should be a column. You know, mostly you'll be dealing with column and rows. All right. So what are the popular commands that we have in Flutter? There's something called Flutter Doctor, both on Windows machine or Mac. Flutter Doctor. It means that the command allows you to be able to check all the dependencies of your framework. So when you want to install the framework, this doctor will help you check whether there is a missing dependency that you need to install on your machine before you can get started, you know, that kind of thing. So doctor is just to help you check, to give you reports. Upgrade means that you have a current version that you're using at the moment and you want to upgrade to another one. Flutter upgrade will allow you to do that. There's another one called Flutter Run. I forgot to add that here. It helps you to run the application. So I'm going to show you a few things. I'm still going to share my screen and my code base so that you can see what I mean by all of these things. So there's something called in your Flutter application. You're going to interface with something called pubspec.yaml. Every time, you are going to make changes to that file all the time. So this is a generated file. It comes with the project file when you're creating the application. What this does essentially is to help you configure the application itself. Configurations such as you want to set the version of the application, you want to set your description, you want to set the other like packages that you want to install within the app. You need, for example, you want to use special fonts for the application. You want to do like quite a number of other things on that app. This will help you to configure those things, right? And then you can deploy from there. So spec, you are going to interface with this all the time when you're building Flutter applications. Okay, so there's this app. I played around this app some time ago. So I'll share the source code with you guys. You can actually take a look at it. So this is a Flutter application. This did not take me time at all. I mean, on a normal day, if we're going to write this kind of thing in your native side of thing, it might take you more time to create this. But then I was able to design this UI myself without a UI UX developer. So looking at this visual, this is a Flutter application, and it has the first screen has like a list of news. The other one is like a description. If you click on a particular thumbnail, it takes you to another screen where you can see more about the news. So these are two screens that we have in the code base. So I'll share the source code with you guys so that you can take a look at it and the likes. Yep. So looking at this, can anybody tell me the orientation of this application? Can you break it down into rows and columns? I want to see how you're going to do that. Can somebody speak about that? Okay, he said rows are in the featured news widgets. Any other response? Can anybody unmute and speak to me?
Yeah, so as Haley said, it looks like the widget for like featured news is like the things are like organized in rows where you can scroll, and then I guess each like component itself consists of like a image with like text and stuff. So I guess it's kind of like a column. And then on the bottom for discovery, it's I think it's also like rows and columns of other news.
Okay. How about the second screen? What can you say about this second UI, this second design, this one?
It's like a specific piece of news. So like I guess if you like clicked on one of these, it would give you more information what it was talking about.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. I think you guys are getting the difference between column and rows already. Nice. So if the designer gives you this kind of UI, you already know how to achieve this because you've been able to like classify them into either rows or columns. Okay. So let me quickly share the other screen so that you can see the code. I'm coming. I would like to share the second screen. Coming. Please to let me know when you can see my screen. Okay. Let me start off with share. Can anybody here see my screen now?
Yeah, we
can see the code.
Okay, great. All right, don't mind the red Sorry, that's the compilation errors and the rest. Okay, so I'll quickly run you through this simple project. It's just hello. I'm going to show you the news application, but not now. I would like you to see this properly at first. See the way Flutter generates the code. Okay, so this is a simple hello, just a simple like generated code. All right, by Flutter, right? This code was generated by Flutter. I didn't write a single line here. So what happens is that when you create a new project, Flutter creates a default code base for you. All right. So Flutter assumes that you don't know anything about the framework and you just want to get started. So you have things like this. I'm going to explain all these things to you very soon. But let's start with the structuring of the project itself. That's the first thing. So when the project is being generated by Flutter, you're going to have a couple of folders and files, right? All of these things that you can see here were generated at the point of creating the project. All these files that we have here, they were generated at the point of creating a project. So this is a system file, a system folder is being used by that. So you don't have to tamper with this. This as well is being used by the environment. You don't have to touch it. This is a folder for Android. So look at it properly. You discover that there's a folder called Android. There is iOS and there is web. Great. So when you're deploying your application, what happens is that Flutter will generate a native equivalence of your code using this folder as the entry point. This Android. If you're generating for your iOS, the same code base that you have will be generated on the native side using this folder called iOS. If you're generating for web, then it uses this web for that. So it's kind of very straightforward. So if you don't need an iOS development or an iOS application, then you don't need this, all right? But if you're building for all platforms, at the point of running the application, your SDK will check if you have this folder there, or you have, if you're generating for web, it's going to check if you have web and the rest. So that's it. And this one, if you're very familiar with the native Android development, this is exactly the structure for native Android development, right? So this is also the structure for native iOS development, this folder, this structure. All right. But then because it's a cross-platform, you need to have all of these things running, up and running. If you delete, for example, let's say we delete Android folder, this app is not going to run if you try to run it on an Android device because the folder does not exist. This folder is being generated by Flutter, as I said earlier on. All of the all the structures, the folders you have here and the files, they are not used. None of those things are, I didn't create none of this, right? So let's go straight to the one that is very important to us. This folder is where all your development goes in. Your code for Flutter will reside in this folder called lib. That is where you write all your Flutter code. So this is an example already, main.dat. This is an example, main.dat. So anything you have as .dat, just know that you are already writing for Flutter already. So I mentioned something the other time called pubspec, a YAML file. This is it. I said earlier on that it's being used to configure the entire application itself. So this application name is called Hello Flutter. This is the name that is going to reflect on the device when you install the application. Hello Flutter will be the name of the application. If you try to run it on your device, this is the name exactly. This is exactly the name you're going to see there. This description is just some sort of metadata information that you might need, or let's imagine that you want to transfer this code base to another person. A developer should be able to look at this YAML file and understand what this project is all about. So this description will help you to provide more details about the app to anybody. So this, we have the versioning. If you're going to the versioning, let's say this is 1.0.0 because it's the starting point. Later on in the future, you have more functionalities you want to deploy to the Play Store. Then you just have to increment these numbers so that you have the versions being properly managed, right? This is the environment SDK. What that means is that this is the current SDK, Flutter SDK, that is being installed on my machine. This is the size, and this is the version for that. And then quite a number of other things that we have here. These ones are packages, Cupertino icons. It's like you'll be able to have access to Cupertino icons on your device. Well, this is you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Google design and iOS design. For Google, they have their own set of icons as well. Cupertino is owned by Apple, yeah. So they have like different sets of icons that you can use for your development. So okay, great. I mean, this is an example, another example. Look at this. I can set my images from here. So if you want to use images, just like what we have on that slide I shared earlier on, the images that we have there, if you want to use images locally on the machine, on your phone, then you have to declare them here. They need to be declared here. That means that you start thinking about so you have a folder here called images. You can create the images here, somewhere here. When you set the images, then you make a reference to it here. You have to make reference to it here. Okay, this side is being used to keep track of fonts. So if you want to use any font in your application, this is like a good place to define your fonts. This side. These ones are default fonts. So where do you keep your fonts? That's another question. You create them here at the base of this project. So you create font folders. For example, I can say I want to set a new folder called fonts. Okay. Sorry, fonts. Yeah. So I'll just remove the other one. I think I already created it. So let me delete it. Delete. So let me create a new folder. Fonts. Yes, great. So how about images? I want to create images. I create a new folder called assets. I can choose to say assets, and right here, I can create a new folder called images. Sorry, images. Then I just keep all my files here. So very simple. Yep. I think I've explained the pub spec YAML file. Please let me know if you understand things here or before I proceed. Okay. Okay, great. All right, so let's take a look at this file. So main.dat, what does it mean? This file is being generated by Google, by Flutter, right? Main.dat is the entry point for your application. Entry point, it says that that's the first file that your code will access, or your compiler will connect to. So if this main.dat does not exist, then the app is going to blow up. So what is the essence of the entry point, which is the main.dat? It allows you to be able to run the application from a starting point. And just like when you have in your your OOP, like Java, Kotlin, and the rest, you would notice that there's always an entry point for every application. There has to be an entry point for that. So what's the entry point for this? It's called main. So the first line of action, the first entry point for anything, it starts from here, this function, and it's being generated by Flutter. So you don't have to create this. It comes with the package. So if I say that, okay, I have an application called my app, I want to run this app, then I just pass in the name of the class into the run application. The run application accepts a widget. Can you see this? It accepts a widget. I said earlier on that anything here is a widget in Flutter. Anything you have on your, this is a widget, this is a widget, this is another widget. Can you see? We have widgets everywhere. All right. So this class that you have is called a widget, and it accepts a widget. Can you see this? Widget app. Okay. So this is the entry point. As I said earlier, is the entry point. So for here, so I have a class called stateless and stateless here, and I have another one called stateful. Okay. So there are two different things. There are two different things. I'm going to explain that to you so you quickly understand how that works. For every application, you need to be able to manage the state of your app, right? Whether you want to click on a button and you want to get a response immediately, or you need to reload a page. All of these actions will need to be managed on your application. So the life cycle of that app needs to be properly handled in such a way that you can get responses in real time. So what Flutter has done is to help you manage the state of your application in real time. All right. So the difference between stateless and stateful is that, as I said earlier on, your widget, anything you have, your entire app is a widget on its own. So this app is a widget. The entire system, the entire system, it's a widget. So now, the question will be, is it going to be a stateless or a stateful widget? A stateless widget means that regardless of the state of the application, you are not keeping track. So what that means is that if you click on a function, let's say if you click on a button to get a response, nothing's going to happen because it is stateless. You are not managing, you're not controlling the state of the application. So that's why they call it stateless. It means regardless of anything, I don't want to keep track of the state of the application. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly wrap up. It seems like I'm behind the time already. All right, so quick one. Stateless and stateful, I would say that, so stateless, I said already that you are not managing the states. The other one is the stateful widget. You're not keeping track of the state of, for stateful, you are keeping track of the state. So for example, I want to click on a button, I want to click on a particular object, and I want a response immediately. I want to reload the page of a news application. All of these things will have to be managed because they are states. Or I click on a button, I want to change the color of a particular text or a particular label. Before you can do all of these things in real time so that your UI can get an update, you need to wrap it around a stateful widget. So the stateful widget will be the parent. So I would quickly remind you of something that we spoke about during OOP. I said something around inheritance. Remember I said extends, right? So it means that this stateless widget has a lot of properties that my application will inherit from. So build is one of them. Build is a function and it comes with stateless widgets. So what that means is that because I have extended this class, I have access to all the properties and all the functions that come with this. So let's imagine that I remove this. Can you see this now? That's an error. Why? Because this build function does not exist anymore. doesn't exist anymore. It only exists if and only if I have this extended. So I say extends stateless widgets. So can you see the difference? Now there's no error because this property has been designed as a part of the parent, which is the stateless widget. Let's go to the stateful widget as well. Let's look for another stateful widget. Okay, this is a stateful widget. Now look at this. If I stateful widget, if I remove this, now it's going to blow up. It's going to blow up because it doesn't, what we have here, this create state does not exist. Create state will only exist if we extend a stateful widget. Stateful widgets. Okay, great. So now we don't have any error anymore. All right. So please, before I proceed with things, can you signify if you understand the difference between stateful and stateless widget? Anybody? Anybody? Do you have anybody that wants to explain to me what a stateful and stateless widget means? Okay. Let me go back to that again. Okay. Let me run. I'd like to. Let me even run this on a web browser and let's use. I want you to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to run the application on a web browser. Well, the same code is going to run on Android and iOS anyways, but then my emulator is not functional. So I'll just use a browser page for it. Please let me know if you can see this screen. Can anybody see this?
I can see.
Okay, so look at this. This is the web browser, and it's kind of, it looks responsive, right? Imagine that you're running an application here, and it works on web, and it works on Android and iOS. So that's great, which means that a single code base that can run on web, Android, and iOS. So look at this URL. That's where you can access this application. So this is like a web application on its own, right? So, so look at this. You discover that there's a button here, a floating button. I would explain that to you later. So this button, I want it to increment the number here. This 0, all right? I want to increment that number. Can you see that? It increases, as I am clicking on the button, it's increasing the number. See, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So that's a function. You discover that the UI is getting a response in real time. So this is what stateful is going to do for you, because as you are performing an operation, you are sending a response to the UI, and the UI is being updated in real time. So stateful widget will allow you to constantly update your UI with new information after performing an operation. That's what stateful widget does. But stateless will not do that. If you choose to click on this function 1,000 times, nothing is going to work on the UI. You would not see anything. But stateful widget will allow you, as I'm clicking on this, it's going to refresh the UI so that the UI can get the most up-to-date information about what's going on under the hood. So let me know if you understand what I just said now. Is it clear? Okay, beautiful. Yeah, so let's do something here. Let's, to make it really fast, I think we just need to quickly wrap up this. So let's look at what's going on here. Let's assume that, let's focus on stateful widgets. We already know that stateless widgets is just like stateless. It's not going to do anything for us. So let's look at this class. This is this UI. I'm trying to. So this is the UI, right? And this is the class for that UI. This. Okay. So I have this class. It's called my own page. You have the constant. You have this file final, which is it describes the title of the application. That's Flutter demo home page. That's what the title is used for. All of these things, by the time you generate your app, is going to come with it by default. So I'll just go straight to what is going on under the hood here so that you can quickly like grasp what's going on here. All right. So now there is a button here. It does an increment. So ideally, what do you think is going on under the hood? I don't want before I show you the code base. Can you tell me? Anybody can unmute and tell me? Can you tell me the kind of operation I'm running when I click on this action button here, this floating button? What do you think is doing this mathematics? Like, why is it increasing? What exactly is the concept behind it? Can anybody speak to that? Anybody? Or do you want me to repeat the question again?
Is it a variable?
Okay. So what's the logic behind it?
Is it just that the counter variable increments each time and then that's the one that's displayed every time the web is pressed?
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Sounds great. So now, because we are performing an operation here, it's a function. So we'll need a function for that. When I click on this button, I want something to happen. I want to increase the number by 1. I want to increment the number by 1. So how am I going to do that? I need a function for that. And this is the function. This is the function. So here is it. This operation is very simple. It's a very simple operation, which is you're incrementing the number by 1. So this is what is doing the work. Counter plus plus. You have initialized it already here. You have a variable called counter equals to 0. You start from 0. So for every single click, it's incrementing the number for you by 1. That's what this is meant for. Now, how is this UI being refreshed every single time you have new number? This is the magic. There is a function that comes with a stateful widget. It's called setState. This is the property of stateful widget. I remember I said something the other time that when it comes to inheritance, once you inherit the parent class, all the properties that come with that parent class will be utilized, will be available for use. So setState is one of those many, like a plethora of properties and functions that you can use. So setState will constantly update the UI as you are performing new operations. So anytime I click on add this button, it calls this setState and say, hey, can you ever refresh the UI with a final value of this operation? So if I click on that again, it calls the setState again. So it keeps calling the setState for every click. For every click. So now, where do I need to call this increment counter, this function? Increment counter is being called here. Here. So before I go to where this is being called, right, I'll explain the layout to you so that we can just take it and then yes. We are wrapping up with this. You guys, so I'll just allow you guys to take a look at the code base for the news app and you can take it from there, right? So I'll just use this as something as reference for you to quickly get started with that. So yeah, so to wrap up this, I'll just explain this UI for you. There is so there is a text called you have pushed the button this many times. So let's look for that. So this is it. This is the text. This title, So this is the text that we're talking about here. Remember I said something the other time that it's either row or column. This is a column for a child, column. And then I wrap, because a column is like an array. It can accept like multiple objects, like multiple child. So now I have a text. I have another text for the counter. This is the text for the counter. I have a text for this, and I have a button because it's a column. I have a button here. And then, so when I click on the button, there's a function here called increment counter. So when I click on this function, it gives you this result, this one. So please let me know if you understand what I just mentioned to you now, so that we can wrap up from here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, great. Oh, beautiful. So I'll quickly share my screen, I'll share the other screen so that we'll call it a call today. So I know that this is a very short time to get yourself familiar with Flutter, right? But then this is like a 3-month course that you need to like take. So what I want to do for you guys is to engage you. That's if your organizers will allow me to do that, to engage you for the next 100 days in a Flutter challenge. So what that means is that you're going to learn Flutter in 100 days. And that will help you to get a glimpse of what Flutter is all about and how to use it. So we're going to be solving different problems as much as possible, build like sample portfolio for yourself. So that's what this challenge is all about. So I'll find out from Rohan. Do you guys think you'll be interested in this? If you're interested in the challenge, can you comment? Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to share this slide with you guys. You can go over this again. If you need more clarification, you can reach out to me. I have created a cheat sheet for everyone. You can go over it. There's a Dart cheat sheet. This is like a documentation platform for you to read and understand how these things work. For Flutter, you can see this. I've created another cheat sheet for everybody here. There is Flutter where you can learn how to get started with Flutter. There is a YouTube channel for that. This is an official page for YouTube. Okay, so what else? And then the app I built for you guys, Flutter News app. So you can take a look at this repository, download the code, run it on your device, and see how it works. If you need more clarification at any point in time, you can reach out to me. I'll provide you more support if there should be anything like that. So any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to give a huge thank you for our workshop host today. I hope everyone have learned a lot. And yeah, I think now we will share the screen.
Okay,
the code.
so I can stop sharing, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and share. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then you guys can scan the QR code.
Maybe we should stop the.
Right.